Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Kyle Bauer visits with Greg Anderson, treasurer of the National Biodiesel Board. Then enjoy this week's Kansas soybean update. Next, Dwayne Taves catches up with Paul Sundberg, executive director of the Swine Health Information Center. And then it's this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update. We'll end with Plain Talk featuring Kyle Bauer and Dwayne Taves. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Find out more at kansasgrainsorghum.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Up first today, Kyle Bauer and Greg Anderson discuss bioheat, the use of biodiesel and heating oil in commercial buildings to clean up emissions and provide domestic energy security.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I have the opportunity to visit with Greg Anderson. He is with the National Biodiesel Board. Greg, there's some changes in New York City that I'd like to talk about because it has ramifications and it addresses all issues or all the markets with biodiesel. Can you kind of lay that out for us?
We're excited because just recently the New York City Council passed a resolution, a mandate to increase biodiesel usage in heating oil from 2% to 20% by the year 2034. The mayor enthusiastically signed this bill, and now this will be incrementally raised, the amounts of biodiesel that goes into heating oil in New York City, making New York City the biggest biodiesel user in the country.
Well, and truly parts of the northeast part of this country do not have natural gas available, but New York City does.
New York City does, and actually they faced a crisis here. Oil heat dealers were really going out of business because of competition from natural gas, and yet in places natural gas couldn't fill that void because if gas lines couldn't be laid because of low topsoil and you're right into granite, you can't lay those lines. So oil heat is always going to play a really large role in the energy sector in New York City. And biodiesel blended with petroleum heating oil is a wonderful way to clean up air and clean up emissions. Emissions from buildings is actually the biggest pollutant in New York City. So the New York City Council saw this need, and the wonderful thing about biodiesel, which is now called bioheat when it's blended with heating oil, is that it enters the tanks seamlessly. There's no engine modifications for trucks or whatever, but in heating oil systems there's no modifications either. And so the customer with confidence can blend bioheat with the petroleum at a B20 level, clean up the air, and provide tens of thousands of jobs across the country for domestic energy security.
Truly, the National Biodiesel Board, though, has had a long history with New York and an evolution of their usage of the product.
It has. It really started with the Parks Department. New York City has about 9,000 vehicles, diesel vehicles, in their municipal fleets. And with that, the Parks Department said, well, let's try burning B20 and see how it goes. They loved it so much. Now the sanitation department, now the snowplows at the airports, now the fire trucks all use B20. We're excited about this because it really sets the pace for the rest of the country to look and see such a successful city using biodiesel. Other cities are coming on board.
Just to clarify just a bit, biodiesel is more than just pouring vegetable oil in diesel.
Right. Biodiesel is not petroleum oil and it is not vegetable oil. It goes through a transesterification process that removes the glycerin from the vegetable oil and making it a product that burns well, even up to 100% levels in applications where it's needed, such as underground mines. By and large, B20 in cities is where it's being used. Of course, bioheat, 20% now. And I use it on my farm every day, maybe not at the 20% level, but between a 5 and 10% level. I've used it for years, never a problem. It's good to use the product that we grow.
Visiting with Greg Anderson. He's with the National Biodiesel Board. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Folks, come back after these messages for this week's Kansas soybean update.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Susan Sankey, General Manager of the Kansas State Fair, is joining us. And Susan, soybean producers still have time to enter the Soybean Plant Show competition at the Kansas State Fair, and it's being sponsored by the Kansas Soybean Commission. So what's the deadline, and how can producers enter that competition?
The deadline for this year's entries is August 15th. But people can still enter even after that date with a fee. But if they enter between now and August 15th, it's at no cost.
With this being the Soybean Plant Show, are there any suggestions on how farmers should choose their individual soybean plants?
Well, there are a couple of suggestions that have come from the Agriculture Superintendent for the State Fair. And those recommendations are to select the more mature plants, to consider taller plants with the most pods, and those that are free from any insect damage and disease, and no off-colored leaves, and plants that are uniform in pod size and fill that's uniform.
You'll have 4 different categories based on the maturity levels?
Correct. There are 4 classes that are offered this year: the Maturity Class 2, Maturity Class 3, Maturity Class 4, and 5.
And as always, there will be cash awards for the top placers.
We've got premiums awarded for the division of first, which is $30, the second place, $25, third place, which is $20, and then fourth, $15, and then the overall champion of the division will receive $100. And we're grateful for the sponsorship from the Kansas Soybean Commission.
Do you happen to know when those will be judged?
Usually the entries that come in before the fair, and we try to have everything judged on that first day, which is September the 8th.
If people want more information about that, want to enter, and obviously they can do that after the August 15th deadline, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, the best way to do it is to go to the website, kansasstatefair.com, and click on the information for the competition. They can also call the State Fair at 620-669-3600 and talk to somebody in competitive exhibits who can give them all the details and guidelines on how to enter.
And how important is it to have sponsorships like the Kansas Soybean Commission doing a specific contest like this?
We can only do these things because of the support that the State Fair gets from the partners and the people that we work with. So the sponsorship by the Kansas Soybean Commission is really important to help promote that industry in Kansas and to keep that level of interest high and to make sure that we get good entries. But it's really due to the sponsorships that we have and the partnerships to make that possible.
Susan, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Susan Sankey, General Manager of the Kansas State Fair, joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more Farm Factor with Dwayne Taves and Paul Sundberg.
This Medford, New Jersey school bus runs on biodiesel, and so do these. In fact, all of these buses run on clean-burning biodiesel, which is great because the more we use biodiesel in our heavy-duty vehicles, the less carbon pollution in our air. Think how great it would be if more of our school buses ran on biodiesel. More biodiesel, less carbon pollution. More is less. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
It's time, the Great Bend Farm and Ranch Expo, April 5th through the 7th in Great Bend, Kansas. This is your regional expo held in the heart of Kansas. J.D. Wing Horse Clinician all 3 days, sponsored by T-Cross Ranch and Bobby Norris Realty. Bradford Cattle Dogs, Border Collie demos all 3 days. Live cattle, beer garden, 80 acres and 3 buildings of exhibits. Corporate sponsors American Hat Company, the Great Bend Co-op. Go to starexpos.net for more information. April 5, 6, 7.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard. Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment brought to you by SureCrop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Dwayne and Paul Sundberg discuss the Swine Health Information Center and what it does for the swine industry.
Dwayne Thames joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity recently to catch up with Paul Sundberg. With the Swine Health Information Center, Paul, we talked a year ago and you were just getting the Information Center off the ground, a real resource for producers. Give us a kind of a synopsis of that first year in operation.
Yeah, the center was formed by the National Pork Board as a separate corporation. It was a real forward-looking thing for the National Pork Board with checkoff money to put this money into a 5-year project that focuses on monitoring for diseases in pigs, focusing on research to help with preparedness and diagnostics, and also to help with response to emerging diseases. We've made a lot of progress in the last year. It's been very busy. We've done a lot of things in all of those areas, and really the issue here is to help pork producers and help veterinarians get that foundation underneath them to help make progress in the health of their herds, which means more efficient production, which means good pork for everybody.
We think about that. The ultimate goal is the healthier the herd, the more production that will be there, and a better quality product for consumers. When we think about the big picture, though, the world of pork is really a global picture. Disease, unfortunately, travels globally as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt we're in a global economy, so there's a lot of opportunity. One of the things that we're doing is monitoring diseases in other countries. We did a survey just this summer to ask other countries, producers in other countries, not governments, but producers and veterinarians, what are the top diseases that are affecting you? We're doing some research to help identify risks of importing those viruses in feed components and other things. The whole idea here is that we can't put a fence around the U.S. We can't stop things from coming, so we have to be better prepared. We have to try to predict what's going to come and be better prepared for it.
We think about when they do some of those DNA profiles and trace outs, what we may think is isolated here ultimately may have a foothold in another country halfway around the world.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. We share a lot of things around in different countries, and there's no doubt that a pig is a pig, whether it's in the U.S. or whether it's in China or Europe, and so we've got to pay attention to what's going on in other areas as well.
Our thanks to Paul Sundberg with the Swine Health Information Center joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas with the update. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau Update.
Kentucky Farm Bureau President Mark Haney told the Senate Agriculture Committee that lawmakers need to counter a steep four-year drop in commodity prices that has left farmers and ranchers in worse shape than any time since the farm depression of the 1980s. Given the state of the farm economy, he says protecting Farm Bill spending and maintaining the farm safety net is critical in the next Farm Bill.
Really, the goals of American Farm Bureau and the Farm Bill this year is to keep the safety net of crop insurance at the center. However, we want to be able to expand programs and help dairy. We want to be able to utilize and enhance Ark County program, PLC, all those we want to be in place. We want to be able to choose, re-enroll in the new Farm Bill, and really be able to use those programs that's operational for their farm.
Haney urged Congress to maintain robust funding for conservation programs that encourage environmentally sensitive farming practices, as well as for research programs that will keep ag on the cutting edge of technology.
Research has a huge impact on the way we produce and the way we're going to produce in the future, how we're going to deal with maybe a shortage of water, or how we're going to improve yields when we have less water, less inputs. All those things has to be done from the angle of research.
He says a strong farm bill will support the farm and rural economy.
We're all looking for the same thing in rural America. We want to be able to continue multi-generational farming. We want to be able to raise our children and our grandchildren in a rural community that provides the best of the world it can offer. They want pristine waters and good roads and good infrastructure, nice schools and hospitals and all the things that go with where you and I and other folks want to live. We want that for our children. The Farm Bill helps deliver that.
Michael Clements, Washington.
Come back after the break for this week's Plain Talk.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And he said, well, we'll have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. And I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio and gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Dwayne are up to today on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk with Dwayne Taves.
Kyle Bauer, your fact or fiction question of the day. The world's U.S. population change has been fair from 2008 to 2014. That being said, I'm assuming we need a lot more food. So the food manufacturing full and part-time jobs. So if you took all the full and part-time jobs in food manufacturing, went up 25% from 2008 to 2014.
Oh, it
fact
can't
or
be.
fiction?
Fiction.
Yeah, it is fiction. Really, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, we're cranking out a lot more food.
I was going to say, I can't imagine it. I bet it went down because we get more mechanized in almost every industry.
Yeah, and sometimes it has. 2010, it was lower significantly. But typically, we're at about 1.5 million jobs.
Is that all?
Give or take.
In food processing?
Food manufacturing.
Well, is that not the same thing?
I think probably.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would think a manufactured food would be like,
after potato chips
or cake mix.
Cake mix,
or cake.
Right.
Whereas if you were food processing would be more like
I thought it was an interesting one that I like, beverage and tobacco product manufacturing. So we had the tobacco buyout, but that's been a number of years ago. But this is the manufacturing of it. Actually, in 2008, we had 207,000 jobs. In 2014, we had 234,000 jobs.
You know why?
Because we still smoke and drink?
We export a lot of tobacco.
The export
In
side.
fact, a lot of the tobacco farmers, of course, the government bought out a lot of tobacco farmers, and now they're pretty much on the market. I mean, they don't have this huge system to support price anymore like they used to, but the tobacco farmers are now on the world market with their tobacco, and we are producing quite a bit.
Back to making a little money.
And we're exporting a great deal of it.
Free market.
Really don't know what that market is, domestic versus import.
I heard a number the other day. This had to do with Kentucky, and they age bourbon and whiskey in barrels.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard there were more barrels of spirits, I'll just say spirits,
right.
more barrels of spirits aging in Kentucky than the population.
I've heard that too. It's hard to believe.
I don't know.
Because Kentucky's not a low, I don't know how many people live in Kentucky, but there's got to be, Kansas has 3 million people more or less.
Right.
Oklahoma has 4.5 million people. Surely Kentucky
it's got to be right in there.
In that range.
I would think.
Yeah.
That's a lot of barrels. Where do you put all those?
And
you would think a lot of warehouses.
Yeah. There's a whole business in those barrels.
Making them?
Yeah, but then they sell them afterwards, and they are
reuse?
They reuse them for beer.
Oh.
And you get that whiskey taste out of the barrel. The barrel,
they don't just use them to plant flowers in anymore.
All whiskey when you make it is clear. And the thing that makes whiskey dark is
the char from the inside of the barrel.
Right, yeah. And you got to be careful when you're charring that barrel that you go ahead and put the fire out. If you burn it all up, it's hard to keep the whiskey in.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.